Broadcasting around the world on the World Wide Web.
Ladies and gentlemen, here it is, the most listened to radio show on the planet. Even the other stations are tuned in too.
Oh yeah. Broadcasting live from the Josie Network Studios in downtown Medina, Tennessee. It's that time of week again. It's time for the Josie Show. Bringing you the most exciting music news and guests from around the world. Right here on the Josie Show. Please make welcome the beautiful, the talented, the lovely, America's radio sweetheart, Mrs. Josie Asantino Boone.
Hello everyone, I'm Josie and we are back with another Josie Show. I have two more incredible special guests joining me today. We have Tony Mantor and Morgan Alexander, two incredible special guests. I can't wait to share both of these interviews with all of you. So let's just jump right into it. Here you go. Here is the very first one, my first guest, Tony Mantor.
Hey, how's it going?
Oh, it's going so well. Thank you so much for joining me.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Oh, my pleasure. So I'm very interested in talk to you about different things. But of course, I want to talk a little bit about your podcasts first, because I just seen just a couple of weeks ago, you mentioned that your podcasts made #1 in music for Almost Live Nashville, and #1 in mental health for Why Not Me. So congratulations, first off.
Oh, thanks. I appreciate that.
You're very welcome. So first, I want to talk a little bit about Why Not Me, which focuses on people's stories of autism, mental health, and the justice system. Can you share what the inspiration was in starting this podcast? Tell us a little bit about it.
Well, it's kind of interesting. When COVID hit, I didn't have a whole lot to do here in Nashville. Music has been shut down. Shows have been shut down. So my friends that I use on my sessions here in Nashville, we decided to do a CD that I'd been putting off for years because I was a singer-songwriter before I moved to Nashville and got into production. So we did that, and this song came along called Why Not Me? And it was about not giving up on your dreams, keep going no matter what. And that was what I put out on my social media all the time. So I recorded it, and then my promoters in New York, Nashville, LA, London, they all heard it and they said, "Oh, you got to release this." And I said, "Well, I'm not going to get back on the stage. I'm not going to get back traveling. I'm just doing it for enjoyment."
Right.
And so they talked me into doing it, and I did. And at the time I decided to do a video with it, I gave respect to our first responders.
Yeah.
So that happened, and then like any record, it goes 6, 8, 9 months. And when it was over, I said, "Oh, that was fun." And I figured that'd be it. And then this lady calls me. She says, "I love your song. Can you do something for us like that?" And she was a speech therapist for autistic children.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
So I told her, I said, "Well, I really don't know anything about autism, so I don't know if I'd be a good fit, but I'll gladly re-record the song in a more adult contemporary style." And I renamed it to Almost Live Nashville on YouTube. And then I got people within the Nashville community to send me pictures, video clips of autistic people and special needs that I felt fit the video and the song. And from there, I was doing a podcast in New York on the business, because mine was about the music business. I decided, after they wanted me to redo the contract to another 10 or 15 shows, I decided that, I would try my own luck at it and see how I could do. And I created Why Not Me, the World at that time. Wow. And it was autism awareness, acceptance, and understanding. It just kept growing and growing because I thought it would last me 5, 6 months and it'd be over. And it just kept growing and growing. And then last year, I did a special for Autism Awareness Month, and I had this group of people that work with serious mental illness on the mental health side, and they asked me if I'd consider doing something for them, and I did. And I heard all these stories, and I said, "Oh, I've got to expand this." So I expanded it and changed and rebranded to Why Not Me, Embracing Autism and Mental Health Worldwide.
That's wonderful. I love that because there's so many different stigmas and misconceptions when it comes to those who have autism and also mental health, because I'm very open with sharing that I have OCD and anxiety and depression. So I know firsthand that there is such a stigma around mental
Sure.
illness. Yeah. So what are some misconceptions that you feel people have when it comes to autism, maybe mental illness? And what would you like people to know?
Well, when it comes to autism,
Yeah.
they have to understand that the brain is wired a little differently and they take and process things differently. Doesn't mean it's wrong, it just means it's different. So
Exactly.
where the neurodiverse is forced into a world that was set up for neurotypical. So
Hmm.
so people like you and me that go out and we don't have these issues,
Hmm.
that's what the world was set up for. And people that have to deal with autism and all the things that go along with it, they have to deal with things that wasn't set up for them. So
Right.
we have to learn how to understand autism so that we understand that there's a spectrum. There's some that have
Hmm.
very hard times in the world, and there's some that can motivate themselves and get themselves out there and really blend in quite well. Now,
Right.
when it comes to mental health, especially serious mental illness,
Yeah.
it is completely misunderstood because when you get into serious mental illness, it is a brain issue that is kind of like dementia. And
Hmm.
and they'll see things, they'll say things that you don't understand. You go, what's wrong with them? And what happens is I found that in the past, before I started talking with people that
Hmm.
deal with this on a daily basis, I found that if somebody did something bad, like they shot somebody or something like that happened and it
Right.
made the news, my first response was put them in jail and throw away the key. Well,
Hmm.
now, because I've learned more about serious mental illness and I understand how it afflicts people, that's not my first response. My first response is I want to know, did the system fail them? Because lots of times, if you dig deep enough, you'll find that they were begging for help, they were trying to get help, but
Right.
because of the way the system is set up, they didn't get it. And then ultimately, their brains take over and they do bad things. Totally misunderstood.
It really is. It really is. And I think that psychologists, therapy, all that needs to be a little bit easier to maintain so people can go and get help and not feel bad about it, or maybe financially they feel that they can't. You know what I mean? It just
Yeah.
needs to be more
Well,
accessible.
what I'm doing this month for Mental Health Awareness Month, if
Yeah.
people want to listen, I have got the first 3 episodes are with a charity called NSSC,
Mhm.
and I've got 6 or 7 people on, and they're talking about serious mental illness and some of the issues they run up with. And then after that, I'm running Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays episodes, and I've got sitting senators, legislators, former senators, former U.S. House of Representatives, and they're talking about how they try and legislate and create bills to
Yeah.
help people.
Interesting.
I was really taken aback that people wanted to come on that had such high stature and
Yeah.
talk about this with me. So it's really great episodes.
Oh, that's wonderful. I'm really looking forward to that. That's phenomenal. I love what you do in bringing awareness to autism, mental health, mental illnesses. It really is appreciated because I think even still people to this day, when I tell someone, I have OCD, they automatically think, oh, you clean a lot. They don't
Right.
necessarily understand the part in the brain where it's the constant worry, the constant thinking. So I think it's wonderful that you really do shine a light on all of these different things. So please make sure you check out Why Not Me, everybody. Check out the podcast. You're going to love it just as much as I have been enjoying all of the episodes. Another podcast, which is doing very incredibly well for you, is Almost Live Nashville, which of course I was so thrilled to be a part of. And I know it's going to be an
Yes.
upcoming episode. Yes. So tell us a little bit about that because you're a singer, songwriter, pianist, music producer. So of course, the natural step, Almost Live Nashville. So tell us a little bit about this podcast.
Sure. Well, when I first started Why Not Me, everybody was really surprised that
Mm-hmm.
I picked autism instead of entertainment. And
Right.
I said, well, it just kind of fell that way and it felt natural. So I wanted to get onto so that I could understand podcasting a little bit better because it's more than just recording and putting something up there.
Mm-hmm.
You've got to take and brand it, and there's so many things you got to do so that people know that you're out there doing it.
Right.
promotion wise and everything, PR and all that. So I wanted to get that under my belt a little bit. So a year later, I announced Almost Live Nashville. And what I do, instead of trying to overdo it, I do a couple of episodes a month. And then sometimes people that really need to be out there, I'll do 3 or 4. But I try and keep it at least a couple a month. And I've been so just blessed to have good luck with it. And I've had great people that I've known, or people that said, hey, you got to have this person. I mean, I just had George Thorogood come on yesterday.
Oh, nice.
So I've had some really great names and great people that have told stories. I had a guy that came on from England that he actually did all the strings orchestration on the Long and Winding Road for the Beatles. So, I mean, I've had chances to talk with so many people that have such great stories. It's just been wonderful, to be able to talk with friends and meet new friends and just tell their stories and do something a little more lighthearted.
It's such a great podcast, and you were definitely right for the job because of all of the things that you have done within the music industry, like I mentioned a little bit earlier. Please take us back a little bit, your first love for music and producing. When did that begin? I mean, please share that with me, a little bit about how this got all started.
Well, I'm going to date myself a little bit here, but I was Ronnie McDowell's first keyboard player.
Gotcha. Oh, wonderful. We love Ronnie. Yeah.
And how that happened is I was down here. I came to Nashville with some friends of mine that were country, and I was more on the pop side.
Sure.
And they were pitching their music, as songwriters. So I wound up playing on a demo session with some of the best players in Nashville at the time because the piano player got sick or couldn't show up. So I wound up doing it. And then a friend of Ronnie's manager came in, and he knew everybody but me, so he came over and talked with me. And then he goes, how would you like to go out with Ronnie McDowell? He's looking for a keyboard player and a background singer. So I wound up going and talking to his manager, Slim Williamson, and it was in the old Columbia building. And I wound up going out with him, and then I went back to I didn't want to be a side musician, so I went back to doing my own thing, recording, putting records out.
Right.
And then I was working with Bob Millsap and Gary Paxton. And for people that might want to know who they are, Gary Paxton was the lead singer of the Argyles, Alley Oop, and a bunch of hits like that.
Okay.
And Bob Millsap published the song You Needed Me that Anne Murray cut, and he produced other fairly well-known people. So they were producing me and pitching me and doing all that. And then Bob came up to me one time. He says, you understand music. You understand a good song. You understand how the players work. He goes, we're getting ready to retire. Why don't you get off the road and come down here and do what we do? So I had to decide if I wanted to get off the stage and forget about the singer-songwriter part. And I decided to do that because I thought that, maybe I can have some longevity on the production side, not knowing what the music side would give me.
For sure.
So I did that. I moved here in Nashville, and I've been fortunate enough to produce people like Mila Mason, Debbie Campbell, Glenn Campbell's daughter, Bobby Wilson of Jackie Wilson's son, Donnie Most of Happy Days. The list goes on. And I've just been very fortunate to be around and produce and work with some great people.
Oh, you really have. And I'm sure you have stories for days. Have you ever thought about like a memoir or something that you could share all of your stories behind the scenes?
I've thought about that, but I don't think about them unless I'm talking to people about them. It's like the other day, a friend and I were talking about Music Row, how it used to be and how it's changed over the years. And we were talking about how you used to go from old building to old building, and you could go into one and to be a producer, the next one would be an independent label, the next one would be a publisher, and how it's all changed. And we got started talking about stories, and I'm going, whoa, man, I forgot about that. I forgot about this, and it's pretty amazing how much you forget.
Right. What's funny is you've been doing this for so long, so you've seen the industry evolve and change, throughout the years, I'm sure, which is very interesting. Wow.
Yeah, it went from 2-inch tape to ADATs, then to Cubase and all those type of recording sessions. So it has changed a lot. The one thing that is good is the quality is high, but the one thing that sometimes they miss is sometimes if you go back to the 50s, the 60s, and the 70s, and you listen to some of the music, you'll hear things that weren't just quite perfect, but that imperfection made it perfect to the
Yeah,
listener, and it's what made the song great. Whereas today, they can go back in, they can auto-tune, they can do all this stuff, and they
sure.
can make everything perfect. But sometimes it's that imperfection that makes the music perfect.
Yeah, sometimes it gives it character. You know what I mean? That's
Yes,
what I feel like.
exactly.
Yeah, you're right. It's a lot different, and just so many different things within the industry has changed, and
It is.
absolutely. And for those out there, nowadays that are really grinding, and maybe there's, a future producer out there maybe that might be listening that wants to do this, some young boy or young girl maybe wanting to get into singing, songwriting. What kind of advice would you give to them? Because you've been in this industry long enough that I'm sure that you have some advice up your sleeve for sure.
Well, just never give up. I mean, if
Yeah.
you believe in yourself and you believe that you can do it, you've just got to keep going, and you'll get knocked down, get
Yeah.
back up. Get
Mhm.
knocked down, get back up. But when you get knocked down, learn why you got knocked down. So that
Mhm.
way, the next time you get knocked down, it's for a different reason than the first one. And if you get knocked down enough, which you're going to get knocked down in this business, then
Mhm.
eventually you start learning from those things, and you start shifting a little bit to the left or to the right. You learn what to do, what not to do, and then you just keep plugging away. But the thing is just keep going, because
Mhm.
if you, it's kind of like, I give this analogy. I knew I had a friend of mine one time. He bought this used car,
Uh-huh.
and it kept breaking down on him, and he kept
Right.
fixing it, and he kept fixing it, and he kept fixing
Mhm.
it, and then finally he got to that one last time that it broke down, and he goes, I can't take this anymore. He got rid of it. He sold it, and I'm going, man, you was one step from having the perfect car.
Right.
There was, what else could go wrong? You'd fixed everything. So he gave up on it when the next step could have been great. And that's what
Yeah.
you have to learn in music. You don't give up on anything, because you never know what's around that next corner. You never know who's watching you. And whoever's watching you when you get around that next corner might be the person that might help you.
Oh, yes. Oh, such great advice. I'm so glad that you said all this. Oh, yes, because you
Yeah.
never know who might be listening to us right now. We got a lot of independent artists out there that could really
Yeah.
heed that advice for sure. Oh, that's wonderful. And for those out there that want to connect with you after the show, I'm sure they will. Where can my listeners go to find you right now on social media, websites?
Facebook, Instagram, TikTok,
Hmm.
X, it's all Tony Mantor, at
Perfect.
Tony Mantor. You can find me at tonymantor.com. You can find my independent label is plateaumusic.com.
Perfect. Perfect.
And that's pretty much, I'm pretty available. I mean, pretty much easy for people to get a hold of me.
You're very out there, which I love because people can connect with you, whatever site they may be on,
Yeah,
X or Facebook, whatnot. So please make sure you go and check them out. And then, of course, they can check out your podcast on places like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, everywhere that you
right.
find your podcast.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Perfect, perfect. I appreciate you. Thank you so much for talking to me today. And please come back anytime you have something that you'd like to promote. I had a blast talking to you. I'd love to have you back.
Yeah, thanks. I really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you, Tony Mantor. We are going to keep on rolling here because we have Morgan Alexander now. So I hope you enjoyed this interview. This was another really good one. And let's do it. Here we go. Please welcome to the Josie Show my guest, Morgan Alexander. Hi.
Hi, how are you doing today?
I'm doing wonderful. Thank you so much for joining me.
I'm very excited to be here.
Oh, I've been looking forward to talking to you. So I was checking out the music catalog. You have some great albums, EPs, and singles out there. So let's start off with like your latest, which is single titled "Look at the Stars." Can you share your inspiration behind this one? Because this is a great song for someone who is missing someone from afar. Tell me about it.
Absolutely. The song Look at the Stars came to me after my dad passed, and my dad, he and I did not know each other for the probably the first 30 years of my life. And then one day my mom sent me a text message. She lives out in Oregon, and I'm here in Tennessee in Nashville, and she sends me a text message and she says, "Hey, I'm going to have lunch with your father. And I was just kind of like, this is so casual for a text message.
Right. Yeah.
And shortly after, I got to meet him for the first time. And then shortly after, he got to witness his grandchildren. And we
No.
got to spend a lot of good quality time, him visiting here, us going
Mhm.
out there. I got to meet my 93-year-old grandmother at the time, who was
Wow.
really, she was because nobody in my mother's side of the family sings or does music. And I
Right.
found out that my grandmother used to sing for troops up in Washington at one of the bases during the World War II. And she'd talk about that and how that was just kind of what she did. And found out later that my dad was a drummer in a band, and so all the musicality came
Ah.
from my dad, watching
Yeah.
his journey. And so the song came as just a way to just be like, hey, you're gonna be missed.
Mhm.
And if I need you, I can just look at the stars, because that's where you'll be.
Yes, it's such a great song and very relatable for those who have lost a loved one. My husband lost his father as well, and he really related to this song very much so. And it's just such a great song out there for people to check out, and that's available on all of the streaming sites now, right? Where you can find music.
Absolutely. Whether it's the Spotify's or the iTunes or the Amazons, it's all
Mhm.
there.
Perfect, perfect. And the single that you actually released before, which was titled Day Off, which we all wish for some days, it's another very relatable song. I got to ask you about your songwriting. You have such great music. How does songwriting work for you? What usually comes first, like the lyrics, melody? How does that work?
It always varies.
Sure.
That's the truth. When
Hmm.
it comes to music, I lean more towards starting with a musical idea from a piano or a guitar, whether I'm strumming it or playing it. And then the rhythmic element kind of takes hold. And, then the words kind of fall into place generally. And it's kind of based around, for me, finding the inner emotion that I have at the moment and kind of translating that into the feel, the emotion of the music, and then letting the words kind of translate itself that way. That's kind of how music approaches when I'm songwriting.
Yes. And you've been making music for so long. How do you feel your music has really evolved over the years?
Well, I can tell you that from my first time ever in a studio in
Hmm.
Nashville,
Hmm.
I remember thinking to myself, holy cow, this is a really cool experience.
Yeah.
This, getting to play with, some talented musicians that I had just met shortly after I came to town and, kind of collaborated over in East Nashville. Michael Vecchio was the producer of my first EP and record.
Mm.
And we just kind of sat in a tiny little studio and cranked out a bunch of songs and more than I had thought I was going to do. And when I look back at it now, to answer your question,
Mhm.
I see the growth from a vocalist standpoint,
Mhm.
how I approach a music line in the song, whether it's, the melody line is a certain way. And my background, as far as what I've always learned, stems from radio. For instance, I worked in country radio coming out of college and was a
Mhm.
DJ. And so I paid a lot of attention to the way that songs were structured.
Right.
Hits from everybody from Garth to Kenny Chesney to the Chicks, everybody you could possibly think of that was on the country radio in the 90s and the 2000s.
Yes.
I learned a lot from them.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Those were great years. They really
Yes.
were. Yes. I think that's wonderful. And I love how radio really kind of helped you, and really went into the music's, part of your life as well, which I find really, really cool. And you've shared the spotlight with so many personal favorites of mine, like Little Big Town and Colin Ray, Love and Theft, John Michael Montgomery, just to name a few. So what are those experiences like for you being able to share the stage with such artists that we know and love?
I think going back to the first time I got to be around, a national artist,
Yeah.
the big timers was Little Big Town. It was kind of also around the time when Luke Bryan was just getting started. He had written a big hit for Billy Currington at the time, and
Mhm.
I was working in this honky tonk in Portland, Oregon, that also doubled as like a really, really big truck stop. It was quite the scene. And I was doing music there for the dancers, and in between the live local band sets, I would do music from a DJ standpoint.
Mhm.
And I would sing with the bands from time to time. And the radio station came in and they were looking for an opener, and the venue was like, well, why don't we ask Morgan to do it? And I was like, awesome. So
Yes.
I
Come
not
on.
only got to, I'm sitting back in this little hallway in a little place called Jubit's,
Hmm.
and the four of them from Little Big Town are just, Jimmy's back there, and Karen, and everybody, and they're just so nice. It was just like my first introduction to being around people that I had already, idolized in some way, musically
Sure.
speaking. Loved the way the Little Big Town was, and I got to sing not only a few songs, but I started with the national anthem for the night, and they came up to me afterwards and they were like, that was incredible. That was a really good job. And whether they were just being kind and whatnot, that's one thing, but they really lifted somebody up who at the time really
Hmm.
wasn't doing music. Like music wasn't the outlet for me
Oh,
at the time. And music actually kind of took a hiatus between college years and kind of mid 20s where I just wasn't doing music, not even karaoke. I wouldn't even go do it. And
really?
I
Oh.
had just kind of had a life experience that kind of pushed me away. And I remember the first time coming to Nashville and going to the Bluebird Cafe, and I was on vacation. I had a
Oh,
plane
wow.
ticket to go home. I was in town to help somebody move from Oregon to Nashville to be closer to the family, and I had planned on going back home. And I went to the Bluebird, and somebody had heard me sing during the open mic portion
Mhm.
that they have usually on Monday nights.
Yeah.
And they asked me if I lived there, if I lived in Nashville, and I said I do not. And they said, well, you should.
Oh.
And that
Mm.
was kind of the one thing where I was like, all right, here I am, and I'm going to completely flip my life. Uh, at the age of 30 is where I was at that time,
Uh-huh.
and I started life over. Literally from scratch started life over, and found my way into bartending jobs, and
Mhm.
then eventually songwriter nights evolved, and found people to play music with, and that's just kind of where the performance, like what I got from Little Big Town, what I got performing, with Colin Ray.
Yeah.
For the first time, being around people that I had literally ingrained myself in their music. I could, sing every song and all the
Mhm.
parts. And here I was, standing with them. And I think fortunately my radio background gave me the pause and the calm to not be so giddy around them.
Mhm.
I felt like I was just supposed to be in the room. You know what I mean? And
Exactly.
everybody's always treated me really good. I think that's what's one of the better things about the country music community, especially, is the ability for artists to take other artists that maybe aren't at the same level and still make them feel like they're on the right journey.
Exactly. It's such a great push as well for someone who is just starting out. And Little Big Town, they just seem like people who you really want to be around. And I'm glad that they are exactly what I imagine they are. That's wonderful. I love that. I wanted to ask, is there still an artist out there today that you would love to share the stage with at some point?
I got to
Mm.
briefly, for just like 30 seconds, share it with Blake. Blake has always been an entertaining
Yeah.
artist inspiration for me.
Hmm.
Like if I could go back to it, I probably would also say Garth, because Garth is also the kind of the as a performer, I looked at the performances I got to see from Garth, and I said, "That's exactly how you do it."
Yeah.
You own the stage because you own who you are, and you bring the audience right there on the stage with you, and that's just kind of how I've always done it. So when I
Hmm.
get into these situations, thinking about how do I want to do music, I look at the people that have inspired me, like how Blake. He kind of just has, a fun way about him that whatever's going on, you know what?
He's
It's
with it.
not any more fun than what's
Hmm.
happening right now with me. So th
Exactly.
that's why I think I would love to. I mean, there's so many
Oh, yeah.
artists over time. If I could sing with people like Marty Stewart and
Hmm.
Ricky Skaggs, who, if you sit down and you talk to Ricky Skaggs about bluegrass, that's one thing, but he loves to talk about jazz music in the same vein he does bluegrass. And so that's
Hmm.
kind of fun. You really get to learn a lot from the people that have done it in this community.
You really do. I mean, just sitting and listening to stories. I'm sure you have a bunch of stories, which I think is so wonderful. Just such a great community. It really is. And you yourself, you have a full schedule for May that is out now that listeners can check out. At your website. So can you give out your website for us so people can go and see a Morgan Alexander show?
Very easy. It's just
Hmm. Easy.
morganalexandermusic.com, or you could just Google Morgan Alexander Music and you'll find pretty much every social media site and videos on YouTube, all the stuff where you could find the schedule, everything.
Check him out, everybody. Go out and see Morgan. And I did get the chance to see some live performances on YouTube. You have a lot of content on YouTube, everyone. Make sure you go and check that out as well. But you really do have a great connection with the audience. And I think that's what a lot of people look for in an entertainer. So you could tell that you really love what you do, and that's what makes the audience feel good as well. So
It's really important, Josie, not
yeah.
only to make sure that people who spend their hard-earned money to come to
Hmm.
Nashville to just kind of experience it. And I would hate for them to ever walk into any of the venues that I do get to play and have them have any taste of an experience where they're like, well, I never would want to come there again. Or last time I was there, that band wasn't very nice or very good.
Yeah.
And you hear stories like that sometimes where, you know, band members will do something and you'll hear like, oh, that I didn't like so and so, or I didn't like
Right.
this place because of it. And you
Hmm.
think about it, you're affecting as an artist in Nashville, Tennessee, playing the circuit, so to speak.
Yeah.
Your responsibility is to really be there for the people that are working the venues, the bartenders, the servers,
Hmm.
everybody that is impacted by the fact that people who are there spending their hard money, earned money, is translating to the business for people that need jobs and aren't musicians like everybody else.
Yeah, it's so important. And you definitely do a great job with that. And I really do hope everyone checks out that May schedule. And I want to talk about McFly and the Ride radio show that I just seen. How did that get started? Can you tell us a little bit about it for our listeners who want to check it out and listen in?
Well, it's a real fun show.
Yeah.
Very like the Josie show. By the way, I am digging into my brain so much that I'm going to write a hit that one day I can be on the Josie Awards stage with you guys. I think that's
Oh,
such a great thing that it's kind of the way that you guys are able to not only showcase but give back to the people who are really putting in such an effort. So hats off
oh,
to the Josie Awards as well. I wanted to say that. But with
oh, thank
McFly and
you.
the Ride. It got started because the two guys that I do the show with, Marty McFly and Stu James, shortly after I came to Nashville, I
Hmm.
got asked to work at the local 1033 and 1045 and 95.5 FM over here off of Music Circle. And, we're doing Nash FMs and sports radio and all the stuff.
Yeah.
And Marty was the guy that hired me to do the kind of weekends. And I remember the first weekend I worked in Nashville radio, it was the weekend my daughter was born. And so, I just come to the hospital. I'm getting my first shift. It's a Sunday afternoon in Nashville. And years later, nearly 10 years later or so, Marty and Stu, they've had a long running show that we're starting to turn nationally now,
Uh-huh.
and they asked me to come onto the show and be their musical sideman, where I provide music for the show and commentary and content and all that kind of fun stuff. So it's a lot of fun. Again, the McFly and the Ride show you can find through my social medias or just by Googling McFly and the Ride.
Super easy. Please check it out, everyone, and listen in. You have so many things that you're working on and that you're doing. I love that you have your hands in a little bit of everything. You just really love the entertainment industry. I could tell as a whole, you just love meeting new people.
It's one
Well,
of my favorite things to do is
mhm.
to create and to
Yeah.
get to do it at the 14-year-old Morgan would not believe that I get to do what I
Right.
get to do now. And I think a lot of people, that are in this feel this way, whether, they're singing on big stadium stages or they're singing in little corner bars, we all have to take a pause and say, can you believe that we actually get to do this, for a living? So that's a lot of fun to say.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. You're doing it, my friend. You really are. I'm very excited to see what is next and coming up for you in the future. And everyone could please make sure you check out the website, but also social networking sites. You're all over the place. Just type in Morgan Alexander. You pop up. It's super easy. Morgan Alexander music. And I really got some great fun questions for you, if you don't mind.
Sure.
Just a couple little fun questions for you. I love my fun questions. So, performing, on the topic of performing, you perform quite a bit. Have you ever had any embarrassing onstage moments or maybe an onstage mishap that you can recall? It
I think
happens.
every once in a while, my biggest mishap is I forget that the fly on my pants happens to have fallen
Yes.
down,
Uh-huh.
and I'll halfway through the show, I'll look down and I'll be like, "Well, it's been there the whole time," and I didn't know I didn't know it was a farmer because the barn door had been open the whole time.
Yep,
You
yeah,
know,
I've
it's
heard
just a
this
whole
one.
thing.
Uh-huh.
So embarrassing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's how you recover. It's how you recover. It
Yeah.
happens. That is so funny. And then what is a career highlight that you look back on in your career where you think, wow, like I did that? You know, one of those moments that surprised even you.
I think it was singing on the Ryman stage.
Mm-hmm.
They had me over for a community day, which was an amazing experience to be a part of. But singing in that room, the auditorium that is the Ryman Auditorium is like any other. I mean, you could stand on the stage and play your guitar or just sing some notes, and it feels like you are in the mecca of music. Just whatever that feeling is, I've never been able to feel it anywhere else.
Yes, the history as well. I did a tour there once, and it just has such a feeling about it. It really does.
And it's so quaint, like when you get backstage and
Mhm,
you think like, wow, this, everything's kind of just tight and there's not a
mhm.
lot of movement around. So you know that the artists that are back there together, they're just, they're all hanging out, and that's got
Yeah.
to be a cool experience as well.
Such a cool experience. What a cool experience for you as well. Wow. I love it. I love it. The Mother Church. And the last fun question I have for you, which is probably a question you've never had in your lifetime and may never have again. I love it. So if you could be any animal in the wild, or maybe not even in the wild, what animal do you think best personality wise suits you? What would you be?
That's
Hmm.
that's a really good question.
Try.
I, we all have like the spirit animals of the
Sure.
world, and mine was a falcon. I did like
Ooh.
a test at one point, and I was like, that seems all right. So I think I would be a falcon because I like the concept of being able to just soar and fly and
Mm-hmm.
see everything, but
Mm-hmm.
also be slightly feared a little bit. Like, don't come messing around with me because I'll get you.
Exactly.
But also probably, very just steadfast and, the kind of bird that people literally raise falcons to like hang out with them. I mean, the kind of animal that you're like, yeah, you can hang out with me for a long time.
Yeah,
Uh,
you're
you
cool.
know, I would do a bear, but my wife gets to be the bear. She's the spirit animal of a bear. So
We love Sarah.
yes.
Oh, yes. That's amazing. And thank you so, so much for joining me today on the Josie Show. And please come back anytime. Okay. I had a blast talking to you, for real.
I would love to. And just one quick drop, if you do make it to
Yes.
the Grand Ole Opry this summer, there are a couple dates on my calendar that will be popping up. We'll be performing the Opry Plaza stage, and you definitely got to see that before the show.
Yes, everyone, check that out. Oh, I'm so excited. The Opry Plaza stage is amazing. And you've played that before. So it's so cool.
It's always an honor to be a part of anything that has to do with the Grand Ole Opry.
Oh, for sure. Absolutely. And more to come as well, as you mentioned. So make sure you stay tuned to what is next for Morgan Alexander. Thank you so much, my friend. I appreciate you.
Thanks, Josie.
I want to thank both of my special guests, Tony Mantor and Morgan Alexander, for joining me. And thank you all so much for tuning in to the Josie Show today. And my next interview will be June 3rd. We have Alana McCready and Cooper Riley. So stay tuned for that. And thank you all so much for joining me. And I hope you have a great rest of your day. Bye-bye.